I'm Coach Jenny. Today, we're continuing our walk together through the book of Jonah. When we last looked at Jonah's story, we examined his wrong attitude toward God and the Ninevites. Jonah believed he could refuse to obey God's call and even hide from God's presence as he hopped on a ship to go in the opposite direction God had told him to. Jonah also neglected to see the Ninevites through the eyes of a merciful God who desires all sinners to come to know him, no matter how far off or evil they may seem. Today, we will pick up our story with Jonah on the ship to Tarshish in the wrong direction, and we'll see how God intervenes. Let's receive together God's word, Jonah chapter 1, verses 4 through 12. But the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a mighty tempest on the sea, so that the ship threatened to break up. Then the mariners were afraid, and each cried out to his God, and they hurled the cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten it for them. But Jonah had gone down into the inner part of the ship and had lain down and was fast asleep. So the captain came and said to him, "What do you mean, you sleeper? Arise, call out to your God. Perhaps the God will give a thought to us, that we may not perish." And they said to one another, "Come, let us cast lots, that we may know on whose account this evil has come upon us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Then they said to him, "Tell us on whose account this evil has come upon us. What is your occupation, and where do you come from? What is your country, and of what people are you?" And he said to them, "I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." Then the men were exceedingly afraid and said to him, "What is this that you have done?" For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord because he had told them. Then they said to him, "What shall we do to you that the sea may quiet down for us?" For the sea grew more and more tempestuous. He said to them, "Pick me up and hurl me into the sea. Then the sea will quiet down for you. For I know it is because of me that this great tempest has come upon you." As we reflect on what we just read, we see a few important things stand out about God's persistence and intervention. God doesn't just let Jonah escape. Even while Jonah is in sin, God continues to pursue him mercifully. As Warren Wiersbe's commentary points out, God doesn't use his words to get Jonah's attention. Jonah has already shown that he's not listening to God's word. Instead, God uses great and powerful works in sending a storm that cannot be ignored. The pagan sailors are the first to respond to what is happening, reacting with genuine fear and desperation. While Jonah is asleep below deck, still seemingly unconcerned for anyone's safety or souls, these sailors do everything they know to do with their limited understanding. They offload their cargo, cry out to their ultimately powerless gods, and cast lots to try to figure out what's going on, a practice similar to rolling a dice or flipping a coin today. They even asked Jonah to cry out to his God, not knowing what Jonah knows, that his God is the very one who made the wind and the sea, and his God is the only one who could save them. Jonah eventually confesses that he is fleeing from this very God, and he essentially offers himself as a sacrifice so that these frightened mariners can be saved. But we still don't see Jonah cry out to God directly. Even though Jonah was willing to surrender his life to the sea, it seems his heart still had not surrendered fully to his God. How do we respond to this part of the story? Well, we see in this passage that Jonah was fully equipped with the truth of who God was. He knew that the Lord was God of heaven, the one who made the sea and the dry land. He rightly believed that God was all-powerful and even said he feared God. So it wasn't Jonah's knowledge or belief that was the problem. Again, it was the motivation and attitude of his heart. Can you relate to this? Perhaps you know the gospel well, yet you feel spiritually asleep below deck, and you're hesitant to share it. Maybe you believe God is who he says he is, but you can't bring yourself to surrender your heart and humbly cry out to him for help. I want to challenge all of us with the fact that God lovingly pursued us while we were in sin in the same way he pursued Jonah. He is the greater one who sacrificed his life to save us. He is a God who intervenes and will accomplish his good purposes no matter what. But the amazing thing is that he's inviting us to join him in revealing to others who he is. Don't be afraid to fully surrender to God. In his love, he will give you the motivation you need to step into what he's calling you to. Trust him and be awake and ready to share his good news.